Alexander's battle tactics and military innovation. Alexander the Great's success on the battlefield was not only due to his bravery and charisma, but also to his unmatched tactical ingenuity and willingness to innovate. He transformed the Macedonian army into a versatile and adaptable fighting force, integrating diverse units and experimenting with unconventional strategies to overcome both numerical and geographical disadvantages. Alexander's military innovations and battle tactics set new standards in warfare, influencing generations of military leaders and establishing him as one of the greatest tacticians in history. His tactical genius lay in his ability to anticipate his enemy's moves, adapt to changing conditions, and make daring, decisive maneuvers. The Macedonian phalanx, a powerful foundation. At the core of Alexander's army was the Macedonian phalanx, a formation of tightly packed infantrymen wielding the sarissa, a pike that could reach up to 18 feet in length. The phalanx, perfected by Alexander's father, King Philip II, was a formidable force on the battlefield. The sarissas allowed the soldiers in the front lines to engage the enemy from a safe distance, creating a wall of spear points that was nearly impenetrable from the front. Alexander improved upon his father's phalanx by increasing its flexibility and ensuring that it could operate effectively in different terrains. Unlike traditional Greek hoplites, the Macedonian phalanx wore lighter armor, which allowed them to move more quickly and adjust their formation when necessary. Alexander's phalanx could hold the line against larger forces and sustain prolonged engagements, acting as a solid foundation for his more mobile units. The phalanx was typically placed at the center of Alexander's formation, serving as the anvil against which the enemy was pinned while Alexander's cavalry, the hammer, swept around the flanks to crush them. This hammer and anvil tactic became one of Alexander's signature strategies, allowing him to defeat larger armies by encircling them and forcing them into close combat with the relentless phalanx. The companion cavalry, the elite strike force. The companion cavalry, or hetairoi, was Alexander's elite cavalry unit and his primary strike force. These mounted soldiers were heavily armed and highly trained, capable of executing complex maneuvers at high speed. The companions were not only Alexander's personal guard but also his closest allies, sharing a deep bond of loyalty with their king. Alexander often led the companion cavalry himself, charging into battle alongside them and inspiring his troops with his courage. The companion cavalry was crucial to Alexander's battlefield tactics, especially in flanking maneuvers and shock charges. Positioned on the right wing of the army, Alexander used the cavalry to outflank and encircle the enemy, targeting weak points and creating openings for his infantry to exploit. Their speed and mobility allowed them to strike with overwhelming force, and their disciplined coordination with the phalanx made them one of the most effective cavalry units of the ancient world. Alexander's use of the companion cavalry demonstrated his ability to combine mobility with precision. He would often feint with the phalanx to draw enemy forces forward, then unleash the companions in a sudden, concentrated charge against an exposed flank or weak point. This element of surprise and the intense impact of the cavalry charge often shattered enemy formations and morale. Combined arms tactics, coordination between units. One of Alexander's greatest innovations was his use of combined arms tactics, integrating various units to support each other and create a versatile fighting force. In addition to the phalanx and the companion cavalry, his army included light infantry, archers, and specialized units like the Agrianians, a group of elite skirmishers skilled in hit-and-run tactics. By coordinating these diverse units, Alexander could adapt to different battlefield conditions and effectively counter any threat. At the Battle of Issus, for example, Alexander used the agility of his light infantry and archers to weaken the Persian lines before committing his phalanx and cavalry. By combining the long-range capabilities of his archers with the defensive power of the phalanx and the mobility of the cavalry, Alexander could create layered tactics that overwhelmed his opponents. His ability to manage different units in complex maneuvers and coordinate attacks from multiple directions showcased his strategic vision and flexibility. Combined arms tactics allowed Alexander to maximize his army's strengths and minimize its weaknesses, enabling him to take on much larger forces. His ability to orchestrate coordinated assaults using different types of units set him apart from other generals and allowed him to achieve victories that might have been impossible using conventional tactics alone. flanking maneuvers, and the use of terrain. Alexander's battle tactics were characterized by his ability to use flanking maneuvers to disrupt enemy formations and create chaos on the battlefield. He often positioned his forces in such a way as to draw the enemy into unfavorable positions, then struck from the side with his cavalry or light infantry. These flanking tactics were especially effective against larger armies, where breaking the line at a single point could cause confusion and panic. Alexander also demonstrated a keen understanding of how to use terrain to his advantage. At the Battle of Issus, for example, he used the narrow terrain to neutralize the Persian army's numerical superiority, channeling Darius's forces into a bottleneck that prevented them from using their full strength. Similarly, at the Battle of Gaugamela, he carefully chose his position and feigned weakness to lure the Persians into overextending, allowing his cavalry to strike decisively at the enemy's exposed flanks. By leveraging the terrain and executing flanking maneuvers with precision, Alexander could disrupt enemy plans and force them into defensive positions. His understanding of the psychological impact of these tactics, causing fear and confusion among the enemy, was a key element in his success. The use of feints and psychological warfare. Alexander was a master of psychological warfare, often using feints and deceptive tactics to confuse and demoralize his opponents. He understood that battles were not only contests of strength but also of mind. By creating uncertainty in the minds of his enemies, he could control the flow of the battle and gain the upper hand before the fighting even began. At the Battle of Gaugamela, Alexander employed feints to draw Darius's forces out of position. He initially appeared to attack the center but then shifted his cavalry to exploit a gap on the Persian flank. This maneuver forced Darius to commit his forces prematurely, weakening his defenses and creating an opportunity for Alexander's decisive charge. The feint at Gaugamela demonstrated Alexander's ability to manipulate his opponents and set traps that turned their own tactics against them. In addition to feints, Alexander's reputation for invincibility contributed to his psychological warfare. His rapid and decisive victories spread fear among his enemies, who often saw his approach as a harbinger of defeat. This reputation alone made many opponents hesitant, and some surrendered rather than face him in battle. Siege warfare innovations. Taking the unbreakable cities. Alexander's tactical genius extended beyond the battlefield to siege warfare. Many of his most challenging victories involved sieges of fortified cities, where his use of engineering and innovative siege tactics allowed him to overcome defenses that were thought to be impregnable. The Siege of Tyre in 332 BCE is one of the most notable examples. Tyre was an island city with strong fortifications and a powerful navy. To capture it, Alexander's engineers constructed a massive causeway, or mole, stretching from the mainland to the island. This ambitious project allowed Alexander's troops to bring siege towers and battering rams up to the city walls. After months of relentless fighting, the Macedonians breached the walls and captured the city. The Siege of Tyre demonstrated Alexander's resourcefulness and willingness to undertake complex engineering projects to achieve his objectives. Alexander's use of siege towers, battering rams, and sappers who undermined city walls marked an evolution in siege warfare. His ability to adapt to different types of fortifications and develop tailored strategies for each siege set him apart from other military leaders. The innovations he employed in siege tactics allowed him to capture cities that would have otherwise withstood prolonged assaults. Adaptability in diverse terrains. From deserts to mountains. Alexander's campaigns took him across varied and often hostile terrains, from the deserts of Persia to the mountainous regions of Central Asia and the jungles of India. His ability to adapt his tactics to these environments was crucial to his success. In Central Asia, he encountered guerrilla warfare and rugged mountain strongholds that required a different approach than his traditional open-field tactics. The capture of the Sogdian Rock, a fortress perched high on a cliff in modern-day Uzbekistan, showcased Alexander's adaptability. When the defenders taunted him, claiming he would need men with wings to reach them, Alexander sent a small force of climbers up the cliff under cover of darkness, surprising the defenders and forcing them to surrender. This victory illustrated his creativity and ability to innovate under challenging conditions. In India, Alexander faced war elephants, a formidable new threat that his soldiers had never encountered. At the Battle of the Hydaspes River, He adjusted his strategy to counter the elephants, using his archers and javelin throwers to target the mahouts, elephant drivers, and isolate the beasts from the rest of the army. This adaptability allowed him to overcome one of his most challenging opponents, King Porus, and expand his influence in India. Legacy of Alexander's tactical and military innovations. Alexander's battle tactics and military innovations reshaped the nature of warfare in the ancient world. His ability to integrate different units, execute complex maneuvers, and adapt to diverse conditions set a new standard for military strategy. His campaigns demonstrated the importance of flexibility, coordination, and psychological insight, elements that would influence future commanders, including Roman generals who studied his tactics. The combined arms tactics, strategic use of terrain, and psychological warfare that Alexander employed became fundamental principles in military strategy, forming the basis of what